It's being called one of the most serious federal election tampering cases in years.
Tonight, we are continuing to push for answers because races are still in limbo. Election officials are still refusing to certify the results of North Carolina's 9th congressional district.
McCrae Dowless has worked for a number of political campaigns over the years, but his work for Republican congressional candidate Mark Harris has now gained national attention. Two Bladen County residents say they noticed McCrae Dowless, the man at the center of the investigation, had something in his possession they thought he shouldn't have. WECT's Chelsea Donovan spoke to one of those Bladen County residents who stated his claims in an affidavit. Chelsea, what did he see?
Fran, Kenny Simmons and his wife say they saw and spoke with McCrae Dowless before the election at a campaign event and saw Dowless holding on to hundreds of absentee ballots the Simmons thought that should have been turned in. Now, you'll recall Dowless is accused of tampering and destroying absentee ballots to benefit the candidates he worked for in Bladen County, including Mark Harris for the 9th congressional district.
Documents we found show the sheriff has been working with Dowless since his first campaign in 2014. WECT's Emily Featherston has been investigating this connection today.
Yeah, Emily, what do the documents show you?
Well, John and Fran, they show that Dowless was an active part of the 2014 McVicker campaign, but was paid in a way that would not show up on campaign finance reports. This gets a little complicated, so stick with me. Jeff Smith, who we've heard from before in this case, filed a lawsuit against McVicker in 2016 after the sheriff raided his video gaming business. In that lawsuit, Smith says he was encouraged to donate to the 2014 McVicker campaign. He did so because the campaign insinuated that the then incumbent sheriff, Prentice Benston, was planning to raid Smith's business, and if elected, McVicker would leave him alone. Smith agreed to contribute, but was asked to pay McCrae Dowless directly so the money wouldn't show up on McVicker's campaign finance reports. In another document from the suit, Dowless himself confirms he worked for the 2014 campaign to get out the vote.
As those connections deepen and the evidence of potential election fraud grows, the problem may not be isolated to just Bladen County. WECT has uncovered things in Columbus County, maybe even worse. Investigative reporter Ann McAdams spent the day there looking into some puzzling absentee ballot numbers. So, Ann, what did you discover?
Well, John, about a third of the absentee ballots that were requested in Columbus County never got returned to the Board of Elections. That is an even higher percentage of missing ballots than the unreturned ballot numbers that raised the red flags in Bladen County.
The national spotlight is focusing on Bladen County, but WECT uncovered documents that show Columbus County also has a connection to those who are involved. WECT's Emily Featherston dug into the documents today and found out the winner in a high-profile sheriff's race is linked to one of the groups under investigation. So, Emily, if you can, spell out the connection for us.
Well, John, campaign finance documents I found today show that Sheriff Jody Green paid Red Dome Group more than $4,000 during the campaign. Green, who defeated incumbent Sheriff Lewis Hatcher by just 34 votes, confirmed by phone today that he did indeed pay Red Dome for services. Today, there has been a lot of back and forth between the various sides of this issue, but one thing we now know for sure, Mark Harris will not be seated next week when Congress convenes in Washington.
And WECT's Emily Featherston is joining us live from Raleigh, where protesters are marching from the Board of Elections to the U.S. Attorney's Office. Emily, they're demanding action be taken against possible election fraud in North Carolina's 9th congressional district.
Hi, Kim. Yes, I'm standing here outside the U.S. Attorney's Office, the federal courthouse building here in Raleigh. They just finished up the march. Everyone's still gathered right here behind me. Now, when I arrived, they were all talking about why they're here. They're here either from Bladen County, Columbus County, Robeson County. They are marching to give a signal to the U.S. Attorney's Office that they're going to be filing some petitions. They want to continue this investigation. This week, all eyes will be on Raleigh as the State Board of Elections decides what to do about the ongoing election fraud investigation. The new Congress was sworn in weeks ago, but North Carolina's 9th district still sits empty. So how did we get here? More than 3 months ago, in the 9th district, 282,000 people voted during the 2018 midterms. But only 905 votes separate Republican Mark Harris from Democrat Dan McCready. That's less than 0.5%. Thanks to mounting evidence of possible fraud, more than 1,100 votes are in question, most of them absentee. When this all began, the man at the center of the state's investigation, Leslie McCrae Dowless, was virtually unknown to most anyone outside of Bladen County.
But we've found that he's been politically active for at least the last decade.
He's worked for county commissioners, sheriffs, and state lawmakers. And he's been questioned before about possible illegal ballot activity. This time, what Dowless and his associates have been accused of would be a Class 1 felony. Dowless is a contractor for Red Dome Group, a consulting firm that works with Republicans across the country. Between them, the two have worked with nearly 24 candidates in southeastern North Carolina alone. Both have worked with Bladen County Sheriff Jim McVicker, who a former friend of Dowless says introduced him to Mark Harris. Through it all, Harris has maintained his innocence, despite the growing stack of affidavits, records, and in-person accounts. He even took the case to court, demanding to be named as the winner of the 9th District race. At one point, the entire investigation was on hold while the state went without a board of elections. This week, the board could decide to either give Harris the win or call for a new election entirely. There's also a chance they pass the baton on to the U.S. House. But it's possible that the cloud over Bladen County and Robeson to its west might finally be lifted, and the web of political dealings and possible fraud, all hidden in plain sight, might finally be straightened out.
Dowless is accused of tampering with or destroying absentee ballots to benefit candidates he worked for, including Mark Harris in the 9th Congressional District. WUCT's Emily Featherston joins us now from Raleigh. So, Emily, was Dowless not required to testify at this hearing?
Well, Fran, so the subpoenas that were issued in advance of this hearing were for the people to appear. That does not compel them to testify. In North Carolina, there is a statute that if they are compelled to testify, that can hold them immune for anything that they say about themselves. So in this case, if Dowless had testified about any of his activities that could be illegal, that would have prevented authorities from being able to charge him with those in the future.
I think they were lied to, and they believed the person that lied to them.
John Harris testified in front of the state board that's trying to decide whether to certify his father's win. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm John Evans.
And I'm Frances Weller. Mark Harris's son said he warned his parents about McCrae Dowless before the 2018 congressional campaign.
And Andy Yates took the stand again this morning. He was on the stand yesterday afternoon when we broke for a recess. In total, he testified for almost 8 hours. Now today, he reiterated what he said yesterday, that he had no idea that Dowless had ever been accused of something like this.
Through the testimony I've listened to over the past 3 days, I believe a new election should be called.
A bombshell statement and a shocking decision. Minutes after Republican Mark Harris admits the election results were tainted, the state board votes unanimously to hold a new one. The race for the 9th Congressional District seat will start from square one. WUCT's Emily Featherston has been in Raleigh following this developing story all week long.
Emily, all week we've had really stunning revelations, but what happened today obviously left, I would imagine, everybody in that room partially with their jaws dropping.
That's true, John. Stunning is the right word. There were several pieces of testimony that came out today that left us all scratching our heads and, like you said, with our jaws on the floor. One of them being that Mark Harris refuted his son's statements yesterday. His son, John Harris, testified that he warned his father about McCrae Dowless. Today, Mark Harris said that he didn't take that as a serious warning, and that's why he decided to believe McCrae Dowless and continue working with him.
WUCT's Emily Featherston joins us now live from Raleigh. Emily, several stunning developments today. Do we know when the new election will be taking place?
Not quite, Fran. There are still quite a few things that need to be worked out. The state board has some protocols it can go along with, but after some laws that were passed in December, they have to circle back and decide. So we'll find out in the coming weeks when that will happen. But stunning is the right word.
And a state senator is going to be the Republican nominee for an unfilled seat in Congress.
Republicans tonight have picked Senator Dan Bishop to be the nominee in the 9th Congressional District. The state board ordered the new election after finding evidence of ballot fraud in last year's race.